Yo, what's going on YouTube? My name's Matt, and today we're going to talk about Borderlands 3 and their potential playable characters that we may see in that game. Now, Borderlands 3 has been somewhat of a hot topic as of late, with a lot of different so-called leaks and hints, and certainly plenty of teasers from Randy Pitchford with tweets like this, or like this. And with 2K letting their investors in on plans and possible release windows, we have an idea that we think Borderlands 3 could show up as early as Q2 of next year. And, you know, the reasoning behind that basically is Take-Two saying that they have a highly anticipated new title from one of 2K's biggest franchises. It's too early to be a new Mafia game. It's too early to be another XCOM game. And with Red Dead Redemption 2 coming out, it's too early to be another fucking Grand Theft Auto. So fill in the blank. Borderlands 1 sold about 5 million copies. Borderlands 2 has passed 12 million copies. I think it's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek type wink wink, like it hasn't been announced, so we don't know it yet, but this is probably when you're going to be seeing it. And in a world where, you know, a game doesn't exist until it's announced, it's basically, you know, all but confirmed at this point. So let's talk about some characters. So I'm going to start it off just super obvious. I don't see any way we don't see another playable Siren. Now, in the universe of Borderlands, we know that there can be 6 Sirens at one time. We already know about 4 of them, with Lilith, Maya, Angel, and Commandant Steele. So that leaves 2 other female playable characters that we may potentially get. Now, Sirens are always women, and in the 4 Assassins mission, rather, in Borderlands 2, Jack pretty much confirms this when the bandits continuously bring him dead chicks with blue marker tattoos, and he complains about his office smelling like marker fumes and blood. So basically, the bandits try and fool him, and that's where we also find out that there can only be 6 Sirens in the world at once. And if a random bandit finds one and Handsome Jack doesn't know about it, it's pretty much, you know, kind of bullshit. And of course, what the bandits were doing was trying to pull a fast one, and it turned out to be bullshit. Now, Sirens come from Greek mythology. A siren is a creature that's half bird, half woman, and the mythology basically states that they lured sailors into some sort of destruction, whether it was eating them, you know, just killing them, things like that. But the one thing is, it was always a woman. So, you know, I see these crazy things like, what if Mr. Torg was a siren, or this person was a siren? I find it extremely unlikely based off of just a little bit of research. So I highly expect another playable Siren that is definitely a female. Now, this leads me into Tiny Tina. Is there any way she could possibly be a Siren? Now, I say 0%. There's no fucking way. Do I think it would be cool to have a playable character as Tiny Tina? Yeah, but my fears are pretty much that you don't get as much out of a character that isn't an NPC, and somebody like Moxie or Mr. Torg or Tiny Tina are all really developed cool characters that when you, as a playable character that's not them, interact with them, you get a lot out of them. You know, the Assault on Dragon Keep was such a good DLC because it brought a lot of these characters in, and they could really continue to flesh them out. And Tiny Tina's fucking hilarious. Mr. Torg is hilarious, but I think you take something away from a character when you make it somebody that you can play as. Now, you know, it would be pretty cool. I do get it. You know, Tiny Tina is 13 years old in Borderlands 2 and already an explosive, you know, expert. She's helped Roland out several times, and she's killer. So I think it's safe to assume that Borderlands 3, or whatever the name of the game is that happens next, if that is after the events of Borderlands 2, it's not unreasonable to think that Tiny Tina could be in her late teens or early 20s, and if she was already an expert in explosives at 13, imagine what 5 to 10 more years of experience could do for her. I could see these different skill trees focusing on explosives. She could be better with Torg weapons, or perhaps a new manufacturer altogether. I could really see it, but that brings me to Mr. Torg. Obviously, he's such a fan favorite, but again, when a character isn't an NPC, you can't get as much out of him. He was hysterical in the Torg DLC. He had some absolute funny moments in Assault and Dragon Keep, and plus he was just a great character in the main game. All of the stuff involving Mr. Torg is always funny, and there's a reason why Tiny Tina and Mr. Torg are two of the most favorite characters of players of this series. So while I don't think Mr. Torg will end up being a playable character, it's pretty much, in my opinion, it's Tiny Tina or Mr. Torg, if we're gonna get one of them, because Tiny Tina is gonna be explosive based, and Mr. Torg is probably going to punch things and they'll explode, and in game design you want variety. So that brings me to Moxie. Now, Moxie has a rich history with most of the characters that we interact with in the games, and she has an even richer history in violence. She hosted the Underdome, she took over Torg's contest in the DLC, and, she's been around the block. I think, for argument's sake, yes, I could see playing Moxie being really cool, but she's been totally fleshed out. Pretty much, unless we get 4 new playable characters that she can have some sort of history with, she's done everything she could do. She's interacted with everybody. She's been married to half the characters in the fucking game series. So to have her as a playable character, I don't like the idea. I love Moxie's character. I think having her be a playable character almost takes away from the experience. So that brings me to my next topic. Now, with Krieg, we got to play as a Psycho, which was really cool. It was a totally different character that you have to play in a totally different way than all the other characters. And I really enjoy the idea of playing as, one of the more regular characters you see that you're shooting. So for me, I think the idea of a nomad would be really, really cool. I could see tons of great skills that could be developed in various skill trees based on element or based on the type of nomad. Now, we know in the game there's midget nomads, pyro nomads, shock nomads, and the list just goes on and on and on. There's about 10 different types of nomads depending on if you're playing in normal, true, or ultimate. So, there's a lot there, and like I said, there's a lot of different things. I can imagine having, your skill being some shield-like ability, and imagine having, as you level up, like Badmaw, you add more midgets onto the shield, and maybe each midget does a different thing. There's endless possibilities, and with Krieg being as successful as he was as a Psycho, I could really see a nomad working, and I think it would fall in just perfectly. So that brings me to my last point as far as a playable character, a healer. Now, personally, I think I would want it, if they did something like this, that they would have a totally new character. I see not as many people talking about this as some of the other things I've discussed in this video, but the fact still is there that we have Nurse Nina and Dr. Zed that could potentially be the healer. But I think if they were to develop an entire different character that could be a healer, we haven't really, facts are, we haven't seen a healer. I'd say the closest to a healer that we've ever gotten is Maya's ability to, get up your buddies if they go down. So, not much there for me to talk about, but, bottom line, if they were to go with Nina or Zed, I'd prefer Zed because, he's just a good character. A lot of the characters in the Borderlands franchise are good characters. And Nurse Nina's kind of a stereotypical, har Russian. It is what it is. I didn't think she was a horrible character. You know, I've played enough of the pre-sequel to know that I don't like it as much as Borderlands 2, but I've played it enough to know about the characters, and, you know, Zed would be cooler than Nina in my opinion, but like I said, I think we need new playable character, you know, all together, which, to close things out, those are all ideas that I would be plenty happy with, but we need 4 new playable characters. We need 4 new original characters. They don't even have to be anything similar to the characters that we've already played. I think the only shoe-in is a Siren. I love playing Siren, but that doesn't mean we'll get it, man. Or, you know, who knows? Maybe we get 6 playable characters off the bat. Who knows, man? Everything that, you know, Gearbox and Randy Pitchford have said is this is the big one. This is the one we're taking our time on. We're going all out. So I would be surprised that we don't see some sort of Borderlands 3 announcement soon. I really would be surprised, especially with what Take-Two is saying about when this may come out. So that's what I got to say about Borderlands 3. I plan on covering Borderlands 3 news and updates and things along those lines because Borderlands is a game that, you know, I haven't had the opportunity really to cover on YouTube. It's been a huge passion. It's one of my favorite games. I have too many hours in Borderlands 2, but the fact is, I love the series. I think it's Gearbox's baby, and I really think whatever the next Borderlands game is, it's gonna be really fucking good. So I'll see you in the next video, guys. If you like this sort of thing, let me know. Later.